Good evening, every pony and every creature. Welcome to DAG. On tonight's podcast at Dratta Talks, as always, this is your host, Dratta Arcana, and joining me tonight is special guest...
Misty, I'm here again.
Hey, welcome back, Misty.
Thanks, mate.
Well, I guess this time around, it's not a CCG episode. Instead, we're going to be talking about being a voice actor in the Brony fandom.
Woo.
What? Is that a Fluttershy?
I just said woo.
Oh, okay.
I can get like a yay.
Apparently we have Fluttershy now on the podcast.
Oh dear. It's not really Fluttershy, it's just higher pitched.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's the closest I can get.
Yeah, that's actually more high pitched than I can get. Well, Misty, you have probably been doing voice acting for a while. I know you do it as a hobby, and you've had several clips on your own channel of you doing like 60 impressions, voice impressions.
Was it 60?
I think
That's
it was
a lot.
60. I think it was 60.
Did I do 60?
Yeah, I think so.
I just went. I googled all the male characters and then some female characters, and just looked up a voice line of each one, and then did the first impression I saw. Hey, a new subscriber. And I just did it until my voice hurt. It was 60. Awesome.
Well, either way, doing 60 voice impressions in, the amount of time of length of that video, which is like easily only 4 minutes long, is impressive. And
well, thank you.
You do have a great range of voices, which is why, I actually like your channel a lot because of your ability to, your voice acting skill is definitely there. I know that you're fairly new to voice acting here in the fandom, but, whether it's natural talent or just your skill as a voice actor, how'd you get started with that?
So I've been doing YouTube for almost 11 years now. So I have a lot of experience just talking in general. And I've definitely studied a lot. Like I look a lot into how to like punctuate better and speak better and like voice acting tips. It's like you don't want to like pop your P's. You want to like speak normally, like pop versus pop. Like some people make different sounds that are less attractive to the ears. And the same way I learn everything, I just watch a lot of YouTube tutorials, and then I just looked up how to get started voice acting because I just thought it'd be a fun side thing to do. And I found a casting call club, so I opened it and then searched like MLP, Pony, Warriors, all these other things, and just started auditioning for things. And you just start. So. It's the first thing I did was I made a demo reel, which was awful. However, I kept going back and redoing it after I did more and more auditions. Currently on my casting call club, been how long? Started in March, so about 3 months. If I go to my profile, I have almost 200 total auditions, and I've gotten, I think, 25 parts. Is that right? So that's like it's a pretty good chance of getting casted.
That is. And I personally, I don't have experience in voice acting, but I do have experience in looking for actors and voice actors for roles. And I'm speaking from a director's standpoint or a producer's standpoint. One of the things that a lot of producers and directors look for is a lot of times an individual who can speak multiple voices. Just look at Tabitha St. Germain. She's got a ton of vocal range.
Tara Strong, who's in every cartoon you've ever watched.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, a lot of times, having great vocal range is one thing, but another challenge is getting your skill recognized by the different directors and producers, whether that be professional, whether that be fandom related. And when I'm a producer, also finding someone that can speak the way that I want a specific character to speak can be a challenge. How how do you choose, when to use what voice for each character? I know it would seem obvious at first, especially for ponies, but how would how do you choose how close you need to be for it to sound like, say, Big Mac?
So for impressions like Big Mac, I'll just Big Mac was actually the first 3 things I auditioned for, and I got 2 of them, which is pretty funny. I don't mean to sound braggy. I just mean that's my example. It's funny you chose Big Mac. But so Big Mac, I know he's Southern, laid back, so he's going to need more of a Southern accent, kind of like this, even though I'm going to change the voice later on. So you'll get your accent, you'll think of the lines, and then they'll normally give you kind of a mood you need to follow. So it'll be like kind of laid back and talking to his family. So it'd be like, "Hey, where have you been?"
That's actually
other lines.
That's actually a really good voice there. I'm actually impressed.
Yep. Thanks.
So, it's always fascinating because I always like to bring in different skills into my podcast. And voice acting has definitely been one that I've been fascinated in. Having known some professional voice actors, I know a guy who's been in a number of movies already, and it's always interesting to talk to the voice actors because really giving life to a character can be a challenge.
So with voice acting, it is literally just acting, except you don't appear on screen. So in order to do things like that, you need to be your character. Like whenever you act, you aren't just like reading your lines and doing things well. You are mentally pretending you are this character, and you think of everything the way they do. You speak the way they do. You act the way they do. It's like if I'm Big Mac, like my shoulders are kind of up a little bit. I'm leaning forwards, and I'm a little thinking too slow, and I'm not too like movement oriented at all.
However, if I do a voice like this, like my hands kind of move quite a bit. I know you can't see me because this is a podcast, but like I'm kind of more finicky. And you just kind of match your voice with the character, and then usually, even if it's not going to happen, but if they give you a script in which it says make up your own lines, if you're truly in character, you'll have no issue like making up a line or two for the character because you're thinking as they would. But yeah,
and that's something that I've never been able to do. I've always been the producer, the cameraman, the guy writing the script. That's the kind of stuff that I do. I'm the consultant. I'm consulting for a guy right now for a Fandom series that's supposed to go into production here hopefully next year or the year after, most likely. I don't know when he wants to get it into production, but from my standpoint, I'm always looking at the overall picture of everything, while the actors generally are looking at the characters.
Mm-hmm.
So bringing those characters to life, how do you get your imagination into that mindset? Because I honestly wouldn't know how to talk like my OC at all.
So I have a picture of your OC right here because it's your Discord profile picture, but so I could try something in a minute. And I know your backstory, which is the big thing. The issue with getting started on things like in the MLP fandom is that no one really knows what they're doing. So like you'll see, like you'll open a project and you'll see, oh, here's a voice I could do really well. I could probably get this part. And you looked and they already cast like 3 random people, even though the deadline's like 2 weeks later. And so a lot of people are just like, oh, I found someone that can do this. I'm just going to immediately cast them. And a lot of people don't get the chance to actually audition, even if they were better. Which I talked about in my do's and don'ts of being a brony video. And what was I going to say? I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. So then for getting into characters like that, a lot of the characters in MLP things are from the show, in which case you already have a lot to base it off of. You already know the character. You can look up the voice. and you can just try and impression it, and then whoever is the closest usually gets it. For this kind of level, it's not really about quality; it's more about how close it is. Sadly, if it was about quality, it'd be a lot better videos, in my opinion, but they wouldn't be as memorable because they wouldn't sound as well.
Something you touched on in that, section there, it's when you mentioned that in the pony fandom that a lot of times the person making the videos and stuff will immediately choose the first person they come across is very different to how the actual film industry actually works. A lot of times when directors and producers are looking for the actors and they cast a casting call, there's easily 40, 50 people that apply for one role, and they can spend an entire day casting one role, but in the end only one person is going to get it. And I know from a live action standpoint that most of the time it's by the look of the character, by the look of the person, how they talk, and how closely their voice matches that character. Meanwhile, with voice acting, it's different. They don't need to look at
even the callback system in general. So it wouldn't even be a day. It'd be the first day, and okay, these 10 people did the best, so we'll call them back, and they do it again. Round 2, these 5 people did the best. So it takes a long time to cast someone for a role.
Oh yeah. What I mean by a day is that it takes easily 24 to 48 hours, at least on the independent front. It can take 24 hours to find that one person that you want for that role, which is easily 3 days worth of work, because you'd be working 8 hours on the casting call for 24 hours, which equals 3 days.
And that still doesn't even guarantee you'll find the voice you're looking for.
Exactly. And that happens too. And that's why it can take so long to find the right actor. But it's interesting to hear that in the pony fandom, they go with the first person they come across.
Mm-hmm.
So
they're just excited that someone even auditioned, and they're like, I can get someone. I better get them before they cancel or something. And it just goes through their head, even if they don't truly think it. It's kind of flashes through their mind. And then they just cast them. They're like, awesome, I got that done. Let's go on to the next thing. Let's make some progress on this. And they're just more excited, enthusiastic than actually planning it more, which I see a lot less with people who have actually done projects before. But whenever I look at someone who is their first project on the website, normally people just randomly get casted.
Yeah. Well, and that's why this one guy I met over Facebook's looking to do this massive big project, and that's why I'm trying to consult him. I'm trying to get him to... he was trying to rush a lot, and I can't say too much about the project, unfortunately. But, I told him, slow down, make sure you have everything. Because having been a consultant for several other productions myself... and I've gotten there was a guy I was working with as a consultant who eventually got his stuff accepted by MTV.
Nice.
Yeah. And he called me back and he said, hey, you still interested in helping with this project over at MTV? And I said, no, but, he always thanked me later for, getting him that far. He said if it wasn't for me, but I don't mean to toot my own horn here, but as someone who's looked at that, I think it might help, especially for all the voice actors in the fandom, if many of the people that are looking for voice actors would slow down. Now, it's also can be very competitive. You got Scribbler. She's one of the top voice actors for range in the fandom.
I don't know the name, but
you don't know
I've only
Scribbler?
been here for about 6 months, so.
Okay, well, Scribbler from Scribbler Productions, she's been in the fandom for quite some time, and she does a lot of comic dubs with different voices and stuff.
That's probably why I don't know her. I don't watch those.
Yeah,
few Discords to perform some, but I haven't been given any lines yet.
Scribbler is really good. We have quite a few talented voice actors. The only reason why I know Scribbler is because she also did the pony art for my OC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so the OC that is usually my Discord picture or my Skype picture or whatever, that was done by Scribbler. That's the only reason why I know who she is. But we do see a lot of the time that voice actors in the fandom, it can be a challenge because I find that not a lot of bronies are actually doing a lot of animations. It's a lot of comic dubs though.
Yeah.
So
those are way easier. You can pump those out quicker.
Right.
They usually get more views too.
Yeah. But there are a few that are trying to do larger pony videos. It's just harder to make them. Because there's a lot involved, especially if you need voice actors and stuff. A
lot of the issues I see, sorry to interrupt, that on the same topic, is that whenever people want to make a project, they don't know anything about animation. They don't try to learn it themselves. They just say, hey, I'll find someone to animate this for me, and then they can get paid from the YouTube video or whatever. And then no one ever auditions because no one wants to just randomly animate someone else's project. And then everything gets canceled after they've already casted all the voice directors, which has happened to me multiple times. So if you're going to make an animated show, make sure you get the animators before most anything else.
I would strongly encourage that. Actually, one of the biggest things that, especially with this guy that I'm working with on this project, I told him, the first thing you got to do is figure out, because he was like, hey, I have this idea. And he posted this huge idea. He barely has anyone on the project. And I told him, first thing you need to do is write the script. Because if you don't have a story Bible, if you don't have a script, that doesn't tell the animators what to do. It doesn't tell the actors what to do. And he's like, he just messaged me today. I have a bunch of characters. And I'm like, okay, how's the script coming? But I think that the issue is that a lot of the bronies that I talk to that want to do these big projects, and I understand wanting to do a big project. I get it. I get wanting to make a big project, get it produced, get it into production. I understand that feeling of wanting to do that. But just like for the voice actors or each stage, there's a point in time in which you move forward. And I apologize to the guy that who I'm working with, because I'm probably saying too much on this podcast that I'm not supposed to. But, you've seen Misty, that, sometimes things are rushed.
Yeah, definitely.
And for a project to be successful, and for the voice actors, the animators, and everyone to have a blast making it, you got to take your time. Patience is very, very powerful when making videos. I don't know whether you know, but how long do you think the writing of My Little Pony was actually in writing?
Let's see. That's quite a bit.
Yeah.
Although luckily with things like those, though, they can adjust it and frame it with they don't, but they could animate before the voices, and then because they can do everything and then just go back and then move the mouths and the head and stuff and make adjustments. It'll take a little bit longer, but it's possible. But in most cases, everything has to be done in a specific order. So just saying, okay, let's get started is kind of different when you have a bunch of people just waiting. I'm currently in, I think, 22 projects that I haven't completed yet, and I have the lines for 0 of them. And one of them told me the lines will be ready by 2021. 2019 for those watching in current time. Maybe
you don't see. I've always been of the strong opinion that you don't find the voice actors until you have the script, which means that you have to have the lines done before you hire the voice actors. But before you can write the script, you have to have the story Bible. So there's a process to this stuff that I think a lot of and that's why so many projects I think fail. Is because they're trying to go for voice actors before they actually know what they want.
Yeah.
So
they just normally people think, hey, I'm making this cool thing. All these people will probably like it and they want to be on my project. But in reality, the voice actor is just like, sure, I'll throw my name at this and see if it sticks. And if it sticks, we're like, okay, let's get this over with and I can move on to the next thing. Because unless it's something real big, like the voice actors aren't really going to care that much. They just want to like get more experience. So like they're not excited and waiting for you to do their stuff so you can be in their video as quickly as possible. Like they're trying to do their own thing and you're just kind of taking a lot of their time by making them wait. It's like I'm in, I think, 35 Discord servers right now, and I use about 6 of them, and I can't delete them because they're all important for when I eventually get lines.
Right. I got a story to share with both you and everyone. This goes back, 2 to 3 years ago.
No, they don't need to listen. Just tell me right now.
Right.
Just put your hand around the mic so they don't hear you.
This is an old story. I was part of what was called the Indiana Filmmakers Network. There were a lot of former Hollywood producers and stuff that I saw regularly, and even some actors. And something really caught my ear when working with the president of the organization. When I was working with the president of the organization, something he told me about Hollywood that I didn't know before, and I figured I'd share it now. Most actors and voice actors, they do so many projects, and they're on so many productions. You're basically, anytime that they get hired onto a project, they do the lines, and then that's it for that project. And you know what? You want to know what happened with Discord for the first time that Discord appeared?
What?
John Delancey even said that he totally forgot he voiced that character for 3 months. It was in his documentary about bronies. The Bronies, The Unexpected Journey. He specifically said that he had not even, it was like, he kept saying, what is this My Little Pony? And this is after he voiced Discord for it. So,
yeah. I mean, that's very relatable.
Yeah, I bet. And that just goes to prove that if for anyone that's a producer, a director, or a creator like myself, you have to remember that the voice actors get hired for so many jobs. Your project.
Whenever I do eventually get some lines, I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'll have to do this, and then I get some free time, and I'm like, okay, let me pull this up, and I have to go back to my auditions and listen to them and do an impression of my own voice because I don't even remember doing the audition or what the voice sounded like. I'm just like, they already casted me, so this is the voice they liked. I have to try and figure out how to do this voice again.
Yeah. I mean, and that's why voice acting is more challenging than I think a lot of bronies realize how challenging this is. I think that's so
to do it well, at least.
To do it well,
or
yeah.
Even mediocre. I mean, I do it mediocrely. I'm fairly new. But, I mean, to do it well is even more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I am, like I've said, I'm no voice actor. But I've talked with actors. I've talked with actresses. I've talked with other producers. I've met a few that came from Hollywood back to the Midwest because they didn't like how Hollywood ran. I've been there. And even though I'm not doing that myself now, I'm hoping that, you, Misty, as well as the rest of the fandom heeds a lot of your advice. Because it's kind of important.
I also hope so. I made a video and snuck in a bunch of VA stuff in it.
Yeah, and I think that so many people get caught up in wanting to make the video that, you know, my 5-year special, I didn't consider it anything fantastic. I knew I hired one animator to actually animate it. I knew that was going to be a lot of work, and I knew that I was putting a lot of pressure on him, and I knew that the animation wasn't going to be easy, but I also didn't ask for voiceover. Because that's more work, especially lip syncing.
Yeah, I made a Sword Art Online abridged series about 4 years ago, and I did one episode and spent like 3 days editing it and then doing all the voice syncing or lip syncing, and just immediately quit. I'm like, I can't edit this much. This is too awful to do. I just dropped the project. It's so much work.
Yeah. It's so hard to do all that just by yourself. And, you know, most films are not done by one person. They're done by a team of people. And even each team of people has their own team. And I think that, you know, as much as we love My Little Pony and the fandom, I think sometimes fans don't realize they look at the characters, they look at the ponies, they look at, you know, all of that, but what they don't see is how much actual work went in to make that episode. That episode was not made overnight.
Yeah. There's a reason we get one season a year.
There is a very good reason.
Which actually, that also is very quick, by the way.
Yes.
It's a lot different than making like an episode of Friends.
Right. You know, and here's the other thing too. This reminds me of another thing I heard from a former producer of Hollywood that was a friend of mine. He said that one of his projects, he made a 1.5 hour long movie. I don't remember the name of it, but he said that he was in the scripting process for 4 years.
That's a little excessive, but I mean, at least he gets what he wants.
Exactly. Actually, 4 years in the scripting process. Well, it was 4 years of the scripting process, getting the funds for the production, and actually getting started. If you look at, say, something other than MLP, like the Avengers, the first Avengers movie, well, Iron Man, period, took them 5-6 years before they were ready to actually go into production.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. You know, and I'm sure that the first season of My Little Pony did take them a really long time to get it into production. I'm sure Lauren Faust wanted to make sure everything was perfect before they started animating.
At this point, there is at least one season of Gen 5 already written and like being processed.
I'm sure.
There's no way, unless it's just going to be a long time until it comes out.
I mean, if they're planning on having Gen 5 come out in 2, 3, 4 years, it wouldn't shock me if they already have the story Bible. You know, because this stuff does take a long time. And I think that as fans, we don't necessarily think about that. We're always like, hey, we want the next season now. We want the next episode now. We want the next movie now. But we really need to, I think that it would help our appreciation for this kind of stuff if we had more patience with it. And Misty, as you and I, you know, you're a voice actor. I was a former producer, you know, so we understand the amount of work that goes into this. So anyways, any final thoughts, Misty? Anything you want to say?
Well, back on to at the beginning when we were talking about getting into characters. A lot of the time in MLP-based things, it is characters that already exist in the show. So, as I said previously, you can just like watch an episode or two, look up the voices, figure out an impression, etc. and that's what you base it off of. However, the other probably 40% is OCs and completely new characters. And a lot of the time, whenever there's casting calls for characters like that, they give you a picture and lines, and that's all you get. And you get maybe 2 or 3 lines, which are sentences, or like 8 paragraphs, which is way too much. You want to give a paragraph explanation, like character description, everything they need, and then maybe like a paragraph or 2 total worth of lines, and then also the picture, because you need to see what the character looks like to like get a feel for the style of the voice. They need to see like their backstory and personality, their age, gender, all that kind of stuff's vital. Then kind of just like their emotions. It like what's the word they normally use? I guess they use motivations, but yeah, just how they're feeling, and then you get the lines, and then the voice actor has to try and make the voice that fits all this criteria, which is normally not as hard as it sounds. So like a lot of the time, my main voices are my voice,
The voice that's kind of like this. A higher pitch voice, kind of like this.
and then a deeper voice, kind of like this. And then I just kind of find whatever's closest to that, and then I just kind of like patch it, I guess is the word, for whatever fits. So like say, I guess I can do yours if I'm looking at your OC, your Alicorn guy. He looks kind of stoic. I know his backstory. What's his age again?
That's a good question. I guess you would average
Like his vocal age.
vocal age probably about 30.
All right. He looks kind of serious. Like I can tell he obviously doesn't like his eye line looks kind of flat. So what did it sound like? So kind of like a younger, more confident Shining Armor that's less raspy, I would get out of that. So maybe something kind of like this. But that seems a little too light, a little too forward. I don't know. I have to work on it. It's like whenever you audition, you spend more time preparing for the audition than actually auditioning. I don't have lines to go off of, but
Well, that was not too bad of a voice of my own OC. I'll give you,
thanks.
Yeah, I give you props for actually doing that on my show. Well, thank you.
of course.
As always, guys, this is Dratta Arcana at Dratta Talks, and thanks for joining me tonight.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, if you're looking to contact me, Dratta Arcana, you can contact me at dratta.arcana@gmail.com or Dratta Arcana Gaming on Facebook. And as always, guys, I now have an actual community Discord server. The link will be in the description. And as always, this is Dratta Arcana with special guests.
Me. MysticDrive, FIM, Misty, all the names.
All the names and all the memes.
There's never enough memes.
Never enough memes. All right.
Never enough memes.
And are you going to end us with a Twilight?
A Twilight?
Yeah, end us with a Twilight.
What's a quote I should use? I can't look up her voice to listen to it because I'm having audio issues of my own right now, and all my audio output's distorted. What's a Twilight line? What did I use in my impressions? I think it was like, "Dear Princess Celestia," or something like that. That's a little too higher pitch, though.
Well, that was actually pretty good. Yeah, we'll end it on that.
Yeah.
Dear Princess Celestia. All right. Well, thank you, Misty.
Dear Princess Celestia.
All right. Well, hey, guys. Have a good night, every pony and every creature.
Thanks for watching or listening. You don't watch. It's a podcast.
Bye.